to lead us and guide us, take us somewhere. Amen? So the revelation wasn't bad that Peter had. It just had served its purpose. God was moving on. God was going somewhere. And he needed to take a people and get them ready. He needed to take a people and have them see where he was going. He had to change the way they saw the world. He had to change the way they viewed ministry. They had to change the way that they themselves looked at even themselves and how they lived their life. So God was moving on. He was ready not just to deal with the Hebrew nation. He was ready to reach out to the world. And he wanted to use Peter as a vessel. I said that. To do this, the Spirit of God had to remove the old view Peter had of the world and replace it with the new. He had to. There was no other way to do that. He had to replace the vision Peter had. Amen? And he had to replace it with the new. The one the Spirit of God, had. An old word for some could be the view of the flesh. The way you always, you approach something, you approach a circumstance, a situation. It can be that. I mean, you say, well, ministry, wow. Well, my view is not that big. My vision is not that big. You'd be surprised how it grows once God deals with you. But nevertheless, you say you may not be able to relate to that in your present situation. Well, related to this, related to that he has to take and come in and replace the way you used to do with the new. The way you used to live life, the habits that you used to have, and replace them to the new. But you have to see it. I mean, he had to give Peter a vision. Peter had to see where God was going. God had to let him in on, this is what I'm doing, Peter. This is what I'm doing in you. This is what I'm doing in the Hebrew nation. This is what I'm doing in the world. So it's not just the flesh. It could be that you're only concerned about you and what you can get out of this. Well, there's such a big picture going on. God's mind, God's picture, God's view, God's vision is way beyond what you can get for yourself. It is more about what he can do in you. Amen? You may be one that thinks that you're satisfied in living you may be satisfied living in what everyone else is living in. The common, the ceremonial, the ceremonially cleansed. Well, they don't live that way. Have you ever heard anybody say that? Nobody else is doing that. Yep. Well, I'm sure Peter could have said that to God. And he kind of was in a sense. But, no, Lord, I'm not going to eat that. Nobody else is eating that. I don't see any other Jew eating that. At least follows, the law. But it's not common. God said, what I have called, what did he say? Oh, he said, call not,
cleansed.
Call what I have cleansed. In other words, what I have approved, amen. Don't call it common.
Yeah.
Don't call it not ceremonial cleansed. God has put his stamp. He's put his approval on it. It's not a common thing. Amen. Don't you call it common. Amen. It isn't common. Never, if you're going to follow God, will your experience be common to man. It won't be common to the world. It won't be common to society. It won't be common to the church. And it won't be common for most Christians. And it won't be ceremonially cleansed. I mean, it is from God's perspective, but from the world, or from the church world, You're doing what? Well, they never allowed that in my church. We don't believe that there. They don't approve of that. You'd have a hard time coming to church here. I'm sure I would. You see, it's not common, and it's not ceremonially cleansed. You see here, God was changing Peter. He was changing not only his personal habits, but he was changing his viewpoint. Amen? I won't belabor that. But it's not common or ceremonially cleansed. You see, that which is acceptable to the church is not necessarily acceptable to God. And what is acceptable to God isn't necessarily, and in most cases, is not acceptable to the church. You talk about faith healing. I believe in God for my health. What are you talking about? God gave us the doctors. Blah blah blah. They have all these things that are common and acceptable to them, but what is common or acceptable to God is not common and acceptable to them. They call that uncommon. They call it, oh, that's not ceremonial. We don't do that here. All right. Well, that might be for the people watching the video. I have 3 pages, but they're very large print, so they won't take me long to get through.
I have 3 pages, you'll be here for a week.
So here we see, Peter says, that. Let's make sure I keep up with where I'm supposed to be here.
Don't mix up your pages.
I remember. Amen. So let me look real quick here. So basically, it took place. Why would you want to live in an area that was common to most church folk, ceremonial cleansed, and not get into what is acceptable, an acceptable life to God? Amen. You see, when you could be living with the King, Jesus, and walking in the Spirit and fulfilling the will of God, which makes you truly blessed and truly happy, fulfilling His will and reaching out to the world around you with the ability to remove not only your glasses, that's what the Spirit of God, your tinted glasses, your viewpoint, your blinders, but truly bring freedom and peace and joy to those around you. You see, that's the neat thing about it. God just doesn't want to save you. He wants to use you to save others. He's got a purpose. You see, He's got a plan. Verse 15 says, I might have already, yeah, we did. It says, these things that God has cleansed, you must not call uncommon. This took place 3 times. Then all at once, the thing was taken. The sheet was taken up. Now it says, verse 17. Now while Peter was still at a loss to know what the vision he should. He was still at a loss. I mean, God was preparing him. He introduced the idea, the concept of where he was going, but Peter was still thinking about it. He says in the later scripture that he was starting to meditate. The Spirit of God repeated it 3 times. How many times has God repeated things for us? Thank you, Lord. Don't give up on him. He was, like I said, he was working to change Peter's views, to remove the old, replace it with a new concept, a new way of living, a new way of ministry, a new concept of ministry. He was trying to change the direction of Peter's ministry, putting him in the will of God. He had to do it to keep him in the will, but put him in the will of God, which was to reach out beyond the Jewish nation, where he said that, beyond this immediate experience, and be a vessel of the Spirit of God, the vessel that the Spirit of God could use to once again reach out to all peoples, all nations with the message of Christ. Verse 17 through 26, Peter was still thinking about the vision, wasn't he? You read it, he was. Mm-hmm. He was working to remove the old. What was he doing? He was meditating on it. He was thinking about what God had said, or what the vision spoke to him. He was working to remove the old. He was working with the Spirit of God to remove the old vision, to go beyond this old standard of living, the way he used to live, the way the church used to live, and to reach beyond what he knew with his mind or his experience, and understand, and in his own understanding, and reach beyond and understand what and where the Spirit of God was taking him, what and where the Spirit of God was leading him. What was he saying by this? So he thought on it. The vision had motivated his thinking and was preparing him from what the Spirit of God was about to do. And that's what God's vision, when God gives you a vision, it begins to prepare you, right? It begins to prepare you. He gives you a vision. It begins to prepare. Does it have it like that? Well, no. I mean, this happened pretty quick for Peter, but he was on the rooftop, he got the vision, the guy ends up at the door.
He got pushed into it.
He got pushed in. But God had a purpose. Yeah. So the vision was there. It was to motivate his thinking. It was to motivate him to change the way he thought. To put an anchor in his mind, to begin to change, to begin to turn. If you throw an anchor, a boat's going one direction, all of a sudden you